We take a look at the latest regarding the recent Vince McMahon allegations, and Kenny Omega is close to a wrestling return. But first, an AEW star could be out for up to a year. Over the past few weeks, reports have emerged that Santana is unhappy with not just AEW, but his tag team partner Ortiz, with him hinting that he is set to become a free agent once his contract comes to an end on September 1st. The heat between the longtime partners was confirmed by their mutual friend Conan during a recent episode of his Keeping It 100 podcast. Despite his potential impending free agency status, however, in an update provided by Fightful this week, it was revealed that he could miss up to a year of action due to injury, with the report noting, AEW sources indicated last week that Santana has sustained an ACL injury, which he told several people we spoke to that he sustained an ACL injury. He was at an event in Puerto Rico this weekend to relinquish a title and was seen on crutches. In addition, we're told that he let a few people there know that he'd not had surgery yet. The injury is said to have taken place during the Blood and Guts match a few weeks ago, which explains his absence from the top of the cage celebrations alongside his teammates Ortiz, Eddie Kingston, Claudio Castagnoli, and Jon Moxley. Regarding his future, Santana would hint that he will address the situation soon, taking to Twitter to say, "I'll speak soon." This means we could know what's next for him in the coming weeks or months. But do you think Santana is set to leave AEW, and if so, where do you think he'll go? Let me know in the comments down below. Next, a controversial star has returned to a wrestling ring. On September 12, 2020, Tessa Blanchard would wrestle her last match before a near 2-year hiatus from the wrestling business, dropping her Warrior Women's Wrestling title to Kylie Ray in Chicago Heights, Illinois. The loss took place 4 months after a rocky end to her run in Impact Wrestling, where she became the first ever female Impact World Champion, the same week that she was accused by many former colleagues of bullying and racism. She would leave the company 2 months later due to disagreements with management that saw her stripped of her belt. This not to mention her short return to WOW Wrestling, where she was signed as their marquee talent, before leaving prior to even wrestling a match due to similar allegations from the past. Well, this week, the woman once tipped as the future of women's wrestling would make her return to the ring at a Hurricane Pro show in Beaumont, Texas, taking on Miranda Elise in the main event of the show. In the end, Blanchard would walk away with the win in a match that was just shy of 15 minutes. It's currently unknown if Blanchard will be announced for more shows coming up, although it's likely, but with that said, no major promotions are willing to touch her at this point unless she can manage to rebuild her reputation on the independent circuit. And speaking of returns to the ring, a former AEW talent is training for a comeback. In February 2021, it was announced that both Cody and Brandi Rhodes had left All Elite Wrestling, and since then, Cody has returned to WWE to pursue the World Championship, and whilst his wife has often accompanied him to arenas in his luxury bus, she is yet to appear on screen alongside her husband. With that said, in an interview with Muscle and Fitness this week, Brandi would reveal that she plans to return to in-ring action at some point and is training to do so, and she would say, "I'm still training all of the time. People can connect the dots and make of that what they will. I will tell you, I wouldn't be training and getting beat up just for the hell of it. So obviously I do plan to continue my in-ring career. When and where, that is yet to be seen, but I hope when it does happen, everybody is happy and proud." Brandi's last match would go down on January 31st, where she would defeat Kylan King on an episode of AEW Dark Elevation. It's not clear if Brandi will be wrestling in a WWE ring when she does get back to action, although if this was the case, she would likely be training at the Performance Center and not Cody's Nightmare Factory training school. Perhaps she could end up with a WWE developmental contract somewhere down the line, training at the PC, whilst once again accompanying her husband to the ring in the meantime. Of course, this is all speculation, but let me know what you think the future holds for Brandi Rhodes in the comments down below. And next, Bill Goldberg has denied burying a WWE talent. At the Super Showdown 2020 event in Saudi Arabia, Goldberg would defeat then Universal Champion The Fiend, this during the peak of popularity for Bray Wyatt's alter ego. The result of the match would lead to backlash from fans who were against the company's decision to put a part-timer over their hottest act, with WrestleZone reporting at the time, "We were told that Goldberg going over was a last-minute decision, apparently because Goldberg didn't want to risk damaging his image. It was noted that Goldberg bargained for creative control and pushed for the title win because The Fiend was a monster and the younger fans needed to see him come out victorious, or it would ruin his character." This week, during an interview with Shaq Wrestling, Goldberg would address the report, denying that he had any involvement in the change, although he would admit that The Fiend was originally going to win, and he would say, "I'm a talent and I do what the boss tells me to do. I flew to Saudi Arabia knowing I was going to lose. Then somehow it changed and the finish was different. It surely wasn't me because it's an extremely selfish move to do. Truly, it wouldn't have been about the business, it would be about myself. Who the hell am I as a part-time guy to come in and demand anything?" Wherever the decision change lies, it's clear that the loss in Saudi Arabia was a huge blow for the Fiend character, perhaps the most significant moment that sapped his momentum. Goldberg is currently still under WWE contract, although he has wrestled all of his contractually obligated matchups. Whether or not he will return to television remains to be seen, but with WWE said to be unhappy with the card for SummerSlam, it wouldn't be a surprise for Big Billy to show up in the coming weeks. And speaking of Goldberg, here's what he had to say on comparisons to himself and a rising AEW star. During a separate interview, this time with Bleacher Report to hype the Goldberg episode of WWE Legends on A&E, he was asked about AEW TNT champion Wardlow, who has been on a tear similar to that of Goldberg's rise in WCW, and Goldberg would say, "I understand the comparisons, I haven't seen him work that much, but hey man, more power to him. There needs to be more characters like that. There needs to be serious intensity out there. Hey, there's people that slice meat and there's people that eat meat, right? And he needs to be eating meat." Yeah man, I don't know. I've never read anything about a comparison from him and how he passes judgment on it, but at the end of the day, anybody that's close to the top in their respective business to be compared with myself, that's an honor and a privilege. Much like Goldberg, Wardlow is currently the mid-card champion, the TNT champion, the equivalent of the WCW television title, and looks set to move into the world title picture in the coming months, much like Goldberg did, relinquishing his mid-card belt. But could Wardlow have the same world title success that Goldberg had inside the Georgia Dome? Let me know in the comments down below. Now let's get to some more WWE news as we look at the latest on the recent Vince McMahon allegations. Over recent weeks, several allegations of misconduct have been reported by the Wall Street Journal, this including an alleged $7.5 million non-disclosure agreement with a former female talent, with McMahon said to have coerced her into sexual acts before demoting her and ultimately declining to renew her contract in 2005 after she resisted further sexual encounters, according to people familiar with the matter. In an update from PW Insider, it was revealed that several mainstream media outlets, including HBO, are working on stories about McMahon. It was also revealed that more former WWE performers have been reached out to in order to uncover more stories, and PW Insider would report, "We also know a number of legal firms are investigating the situation themselves from the perspective that all of this hurt the WWE stockholders, and until they decide they are filing class action suits or not, those are still ongoing." Finally, I know that the Wall Street Journal is still pursuing additional stories, and I know they were trying to reach out to former WWE performers as of 48 hours ago, so short answer, yeah, it looks like there's more to come. As of this recording, Vince McMahon remains in charge of WWE Creative despite having to step down as chairman and CEO of the company. With that said, it seems there's been business as usual. Whether or not there's more stories remains to be seen, but by the countless stories that are broke so far, it's likely that there is more to this situation. And finally, Kenny Omega is close to a wrestling return. Ever since October 2021, the former AEW World Champion has been out of action in an attempt to recover from a number of nagging injuries that he's been working through over recent years. In an update from Fightful Select this week, it was revealed that Omega could be set for an imminent return. That's if word going around backstage in AEW is to be believed. The report refers to a planned match for the AEW All Out pay-per-view this September, with Fightful noting, "Fightful Select has learned that the tentative plans that certain staff were made aware of was that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were slated for a 6-man tag program for September's All Out pay-per-view. We've yet to confirm this with AEW officials, and anything could change, as is the nature of pro wrestling. There have been heavy changes and adjustments to the AEW tag team title scene in the past 2 months due to injuries and Jeff Hardy's DUI. Last week, Dave Meltzer would report that a trilogy match between AEW World Tag Team Champions the Young Bucks and ROH, IWGP and AAA Tag Champions FTR is currently on hold due to a major angle that will involve the Bucks, with this believed to be related to the return of Kenny Omega. According to Fightful, the plans that Meltzer is referring to will lead to a match at All Out and is said to involve Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, who are all currently on the same page as the Elite. However, a split has been teased a number of times. It seems the 6 men are set to break into 2 trios for an upcoming feud, although of course plans could always change. Neither AEW nor Kenny Omega have confirmed the report and no specific return date is known, and thus far this is all based on what talent and staff have been told before passing it on to Fightful. This is just speculation on my part, but could this also involve the planned Trios Championships, which Tony Khan has confirmed to be coming once Kenny Omega returns? It's certainly likely. Fightful would add that Kenny told them in June that the Forbidden Door event was the original plan for his return, although this was delayed as to not risk any further injury. But what do you make of an upcoming Trios feud with the Elite and the Undisputed Elite? Let me know in the comments down below. And before before you go, make sure you check out every All In wrestler that didn't sign for AEW.